Hey folks, let me tell you about a woman I know. We'll call her Sandra. Sandra works 40 hours a week at a job that hasn't given her a raise in 3 years. She comes home, cooks dinner, helps with homework, does the laundry, and then sits down at the kitchen table to figure out how to make $600 last until Friday. Her husband is on the couch. He's been on that couch for a while now, and Sandra keeps telling herself, at least he's here, at least he's not drinking, at least things aren't worse. Here's what Sandra couldn't see. She wasn't holding her family together. She was holding her husband's lack of effort together. And I'm seeing Sandra's everywhere right now. So here's what I need you to understand. If you recognize yourself in Sandra, today's conversation is for you. Because inflation didn't break your household. You just finally can't hide it anymore. And before we go any further, let me ask you something. How's that working for you? You working 2 jobs and going home to work a third? How's that been treating you? Because I'm guessing if things were working, you wouldn't be here right now. I'm guessing there's a level of exhaustion in your life that goes way beyond tired. It's a bone deep kind of worn out, the kind where you sit in the car for 5 extra minutes before you go inside just because it's the only quiet you get all day. That's not normal, and you've been acting like it is. Here's what I need you to understand about what's actually happening in your house. You've got 3 jobs, not 2, not 1.5, 3 full-time jobs. You've got the job that pays the one you get up for every morning, the one with the alarm clock and the commute and the boss and the deadlines. That job alone would exhaust most people. But when you come home, the second job is waiting for you. Dinner doesn't make itself. Laundry doesn't fold itself. Kids don't get homework help from thin air. The floors don't mop themselves. And nobody handed you a schedule for it. Nobody's tracking your hours, and there's no paycheck at the end of it. You just do it every single day. And then there's the third job, the one that keeps you up at night, the mental math, the $200 grocery bill you're trying to figure out, the electric bill that went up $40, the insurance renewal that came in higher than last year, the birthday coming up you don't know how to cover. That's budget management. That's a real skill, and you're doing it alone, in the dark, at the kitchen table, while everyone else is asleep. Let me tell you something. The grocery store didn't make you tired. The gas pump didn't make you tired. Inflation didn't make you tired. What made you tired is the fact that you've been doing all of this, all 3 jobs, while someone else in your house is only doing 1 or 0. And you've been so busy keeping the whole thing running that you haven't stopped to ask the most basic question, why is this all on me? Not in a venting way, not in a I need to vent to my girlfriend way, but in a real sit down and look at this honestly way. Why is this all on you? And more importantly, how did you let it get this way? So here's the thing. Nobody wakes up one morning with 3 jobs. That doesn't happen overnight. You got here one small decision at a time. One, I'll just do it myself at a time. One, it's easier if I just handle it at a time. One, I don't want to fight about this tonight at a time. Those small decisions stacked up. They piled up week after week, month after month, year after year. And somewhere along the way, what was supposed to be temporary became permanent. What was supposed to be just for now became, this is just how we do things. You didn't sign a contract. You didn't sit down and agree to this, but you agreed to it every single day you did it without saying a word. Here's what's really happening when you stay silent. Every time you don't say something, you send a message. Every time you cook dinner without asking for help, you say, I've got this. Every time you handle the budget alone, you say, "This is my job." Every time you stay up worrying about money while your partner sleeps just fine, you say, "This is acceptable." You're communicating constantly, just not with words. And the people around you are listening. They hear, "She's fine." They hear, "She'll handle it." They hear, "There's no consequence for my not stepping up." You teach people how to treat you. I know that's hard to hear. But if you look at your life right now and it doesn't look like a partnership, you need to ask yourself what you've been teaching. Now, listen, I'm not saying your situation is simple. I'm not saying the conversation is easy. I'm not saying your partner is a bad person. What I'm saying is that right now, in this house, something isn't fair. And you know it. You've known it for a while. You've felt that resentment building. Maybe you've called it stress. Maybe you've called it exhaustion. Maybe you've told yourself this is just a hard season. But deep down, you know it's not about a season. This has been going on too long to be a season. This is a pattern and you know it. Let me show you what this looks like from the outside. A woman named Karen, she's 54, works in healthcare administration. She's been the primary earner in her house for 11 years. Her husband works part-time. He's had a few jobs over the years, nothing that stuck. Karen tells herself he's trying. Karen handles the mortgage, the groceries, the car payments, the kids' school supplies. She also does most of the cooking because he's not a great cook. She does most of the cleaning because it bothers her more than him. She manages every bill because she's better with numbers. And when inflation hit hard this past year and the grocery bill went from $120 a week to $200, Karen sat down and cried. But she didn't cry because of inflation. She cried because she was already at the edge. Inflation just pushed her over. And when she finally told her husband how overwhelmed she was, he said, "I didn't know it was that bad." Karen had been handling everything so well for so long that he genuinely didn't know. Because she never showed him. She just kept going. That's not strength, that's isolation. And Karen had been isolated in her own marriage for over a decade without naming it. Here's what you're not seeing when you tell yourself you're strong for handling it all. You're not protecting your family by carrying everything alone. You're actually robbing your partner of the chance to show up. You're making a unilateral decision that you're better at this, that it's easier if you do it, that the fight isn't worth it, and in doing that, you've cut your partner out of the equation entirely. That's not a partnership. That's you running a household and letting someone else live in it. And I want you to think about what that's been costing you, not just in dollars, in your health, in your sleep, in your mood, in your patience with your kids, in your feelings toward your partner. You're paying a price every single day for this arrangement. And the question is, when's it going to be enough? So here's the deal with inflation. I want to get real about this for a minute because I hear a lot of people treating it like it's the root cause. Things are so expensive, the economy is terrible, we just can't make ends meet. And yes, all of that is true. Prices are up. Groceries are significantly more expensive than they were 3 years ago. Gas, utilities, insurance, it's all higher. That is a real problem. I'm not dismissing that. But here's what I need you to face. Inflation is a multiplier, not a creator. What it's doing in your house right now is making a pre-existing problem impossible to ignore. If two people were splitting the financial stress, splitting the household labor, having real conversations about money together, inflation would be hard but manageable. You'd be solving it as a team. But if one person is managing all of it alone, inflation turns hard into impossible. It doesn't create the crack in the foundation, it just makes the whole wall fall down. Let me break this down into something you can actually use. The $200 grocery bill isn't the problem. The problem has 3 layers. Layer 1 is financial. One income is being stretched to cover what 2 incomes, or one income plus a second contributing partner, should be covering. Layer 2 is labor. You're working a full shift outside the home and then coming home to another full shift inside it, without a true partner in either. Layer 3 is emotional. You've been managing this alone for so long that you've stopped even expecting help. You've lowered your own standard for what a fair arrangement looks like. And that third layer is the one that's the hardest to undo, because it's not just about dividing chores or splitting a grocery bill. It's about the fact that you've been in survival mode for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to actually be supported. Here's the reality of what surviving on one income in today's economy actually requires. It requires 2 people looking at the same numbers. It requires 2 people agreeing on priorities. It requires 2 people making decisions about spending together. It requires 2 people cutting back on different things. It requires an honest, uncomfortable, real conversation about what you have, what you need, and what's going to have to change. You can't clip your way out of this. You can't coupon your way to financial stability when the real issue is that one person is carrying the entire weight of a household that was meant to be shared. Meal planning helps on the margins. Cutting subscriptions helps on the margins. But it doesn't fix the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is that you're running a 2-person operation as a 1-person operation, and that has a cost that no amount of couponing can offset. Here's what kills me. Women who would tell you right now, I do everything in my house, and they say it almost like a badge, like it's something to be proud of. Like I keep it all together is an identity rather than a red flag. And I understand why. Because for a long time, being the strong one, the capable one, the one who handles everything, felt like power. It felt like you were indispensable. It felt like proof that you were a good mother, a good wife, a responsible woman. Nobody ever told you that running yourself into the ground wasn't the same thing as being strong. Nobody ever said, hey, the fact that you do it all isn't a compliment. It's a sign that something in your house isn't working. So here you are, proud of your exhaustion, defending an arrangement that's destroying you. Stop it. You know what I'm seeing? I'm seeing women in their 40s, 50s, 60s who have been carrying this load for decades, and their bodies are starting to show it. High blood pressure, sleep problems, anxiety that never fully goes away, constant irritability, a short fuse with the people they love most, a feeling of profound loneliness in a house full of people. I'm seeing women who can't remember the last time they did something just for themselves. Not a spa day, not a vacation, just a Tuesday where nobody needed anything from them. And when you ask them, are you okay? They say yes, automatically, before they even think about it, because they've said yes for so long that they don't even check anymore. That's not strength. That's disconnection. You've disconnected from yourself so thoroughly that you don't even know what you need anymore. And that's a serious problem. Let me tell you what this is really about. It's not about the grocery bill. It's not even really about money. It's about the fact that you've accepted a version of your life that is profoundly unfair. And instead of addressing that unfairness directly, you've been compensating for it. You've been compensating by working harder, by sleeping less, by worrying more, by cutting back on yourself before cutting back on anything else. When the budget gets tight, you're the first one to say, I don't need that. When there's not enough time, you're the one who cuts your own rest. When there's not enough energy, you're the one who digs deeper. And your partner has never had to feel the pressure of that choice because you've always shielded them from it. You're not protecting them, you're enabling them. And there's a real difference between the two. Here's what nobody's telling you. Your partner's comfort in this arrangement depends on your silence. The moment you stop handling everything without complaint, the moment you stop making their life easy at the expense of your own, that's the moment the conversation has to happen. And they know it. On some level, consciously or not, they know that as long as you keep going, they don't have to change. So they're not going to suddenly notice on their own. They're not going to wake up one morning and say, hey, I've been letting you carry too much, let me take some of that. That's not how this works. If it were going to happen naturally, it would have happened already. What's required here is a conversation, not a hint, not a sigh at the kitchen table, not a passive comment about how tired you are. A real, direct, clear conversation where you say exactly what you mean. So here's where you are right now. You've been waiting for them to notice, waiting for things to ease up, waiting until the right time, the right mood, the right moment. And I'll tell you something about that wait, it has no end. There is no right moment for this conversation. There will always be a reason to wait. Something is always happening. Someone is always stressed. There's always a reason to put it off one more week. Stop lying to yourself about what you're really doing when you wait. You're not being patient. You're being avoidant. You're avoiding a hard conversation because you don't know how it's going to go. And I understand that. But here's the cost of that avoidance. Every week you wait is another week of being ground down. Every week you wait, the resentment builds a little more. Every week you wait, the distance between you and your partner grows a little wider. The conversation gets harder the longer you put it off, not easier. Now let me ask you something. What exactly are you afraid of? When I work through this with people, it usually comes down to one of three things. Either they're afraid of the fight, they don't want the conflict, they don't want things to get ugly, they've had those fights before and they didn't go anywhere, or they're afraid of what they'll find out. What if they have this conversation and their partner just doesn't care? What if the response is worse than the silence? Or they're afraid of what it means if I say this out loud, if I admit that this isn't working, what does that say about my marriage, my family, my choices? Those are real fears. I'm not dismissing them. But here's what I need you to understand. Avoiding the conversation doesn't protect you from any of those outcomes. It just delays them while the damage accumulates. Let me walk you through what this conversation actually looks like. Because most women I talk to, when I say have the conversation, they either get too emotional and it turns into a fight, or they stay so calm and vague that nothing actually changes. I want to give you something concrete. You sit down when things are calm. Not after a hard day, not when the bills just came in, not when you're already frustrated. You pick a neutral moment and you say this, I need to talk to you about something important and I need you to really hear me. That's it. That's how you start. Not with accusations, not with a list of everything they haven't done. You start with, I need you to hear me. And then you say exactly what's happening. I'm working full time and I'm also managing the entire household and the entire budget. I'm exhausted and I need things to change. Direct, specific, no accusations, no blame spiral. Just the truth. And here's what's going to happen next, because you need to be ready for it. There are going to be a few possible responses. Response 1, I didn't know it was this bad. That's actually a good sign. It means they've been oblivious, not indifferent. And your response to that is, now you know. So let's figure out how to change it. Don't accept "I didn't know" as an ending. That's a beginning. Use it. Response 2, you never asked for help. And this one is going to sting because there's some truth in it. Your response, you're right, I'm asking now, here's what I need. Don't get defensive. Don't go back and argue about the past. Just move forward. I'm asking now. Here's specifically what I need from you this week. Response 3, I've been stressed too. And this is where a lot of conversations go sideways. Your response, I hear that you're stressed. This isn't a competition. We're both struggling and we need to work on this together. Don't get pulled into a debate about who has it harder. That conversation has no winner. Here's what's really important about that first conversation. You have to come with specific asks. Not, I need more help. Not, you need to do more around the house. Those are too vague. You need to say, I need you to cook dinner 3 nights a week. I need you to take responsibility for the grocery shopping twice a month. I need us to sit down together every Sunday for 20 minutes and go over the budget as a team. Specific, concrete, actionable. Because if you leave it vague, nothing changes. If you say, I need you to be more aware, that goes nowhere. But if you say, I need you to cook on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, now there's something real on the table. And when they agree, and if they push back, you hold firm. You say, I'm not asking because I want to fight. I'm asking because I need a partner in this, and right now I don't have one. Now, what if they get defensive? What if the conversation goes sideways and they start getting angry or shut down? Here's what you do. You stay calm. You don't match their energy. You say, I'm not attacking you. I'm telling you what I need. If you're not ready to talk right now, that's fine, but we need to come back to this tomorrow. And then you leave the room. You don't slam doors. You don't escalate. You just disengage and make it clear the conversation isn't over, and the next day you come back. I need us to finish what we started yesterday. Because if you let it go, if you say forget it just to keep the peace, you've just taught them that anger or shutting down is an effective way to end conversations they don't want to have. Don't teach them that. Hold the line. Here's what nobody's telling you about the money piece specifically. Your budget problem is not primarily a spending problem. It might be a little bit of a spending problem, but the real issue is an income and responsibility problem. You've been treating the household finances like they're yours to manage and fix. They're not. They're a shared responsibility. So the next time you sit down to look at the grocery budget, don't do it alone. Say, I want us to do this together. Lay out all the numbers, the income coming in, every bill that goes out, every expense, put it all on the table. And when your partner sees those numbers, really sees them, they will understand in a way that no amount of you explaining ever achieved. Because there's something about seeing $200 sitting next to $600 after bills that hits differently than being told groceries are expensive. So here's where you need to get real about the grocery bill specifically. When you're spending $200 at the grocery store and coming up short, the first question is not, how do I spend less? The first question is, why am I solving this alone? And once you answer that question, once you've had the conversation and things start to shift, then you can work on the practical side together. Meal planning works when 2 people agree on what they're eating. Budgeting works when 2 people know what's in the account. Cutting back works when 2 people decide together what comes off the list. None of those things work when one person is doing them in isolation and hoping the other person magically cooperates. So stop trying to fix the symptom before you've addressed the cause. Let me tell you about another woman. Her name was Diane. Diane is 61 years old. She spent 30 years managing everything in her house. Her husband worked, came home, watched TV, and went to bed. And Diane managed the rest. She told herself it was fine. She told herself he worked hard. She told herself this is just how marriages work. And then her husband retired, and Diane realized that now he was home all day and still not helping. She realized she'd spent 30 years hoping things would change, and at 61, with her knees hurting and her energy half of what it used to be, she was still doing everything. She came to me and said, "I don't know how to ask for help." And I said, "Yes, you do. You just never believed you had the right to." Diane had spent 30 years telling herself she was fine. She was not fine. She had simply convinced herself that fine and survival were the same thing. They're not. Don't be Diane at 61 looking back on 30 years of silence. Here's what you need to understand about the long game. This isn't just about right now. It's about what happens if nothing changes. You're going to keep getting older. The work doesn't slow down, your body does. The financial pressure doesn't ease up, it increases. The resentment doesn't disappear, it calcifies. And somewhere down the road, could be 5 years, could be 10, you're going to be sitting somewhere asking yourself how you let it go this far. And the answer is going to be the same thing I'm telling you right now. You stayed silent. You kept going. You kept managing it all alone, calling it love and calling it strength, when what it actually was is a slow leak in the foundation of your life. Stop the leak now. While you still have the energy, while the conversation is still possible, while your health is still intact. Let me tell you what changes when you finally have this conversation and things actually shift. Here's what women tell me happens on the other side of it. First, the resentment starts to lift. Not immediately, not all at once, but when you stop carrying everything alone, when your partner actually starts stepping up, when you stop going to bed every night feeling invisible, the bitterness starts to ease. Second, the money stress doesn't necessarily disappear, but it becomes shared. There's something profoundly different about lying awake thinking about the grocery budget when you know your partner is thinking about it too. It's still stressful, but you're not alone in it. Third, your kids see something different. If you have kids in your house, they're watching. They're watching how work gets divided. They're watching what you accept and what you don't. They're learning what a partnership looks like or doesn't look like. The conversation you have with your partner today is a lesson you're teaching your children about what they should expect in their own relationships. Here's what I'm asking you to do this week. Not next month, not when things calm down. This week, I want you to write down the 3 jobs you're doing. Lay them out on paper. The paying job, the household job, the budget job. Write down every single responsibility that falls on you. Every bill you manage, every meal you plan, every errand you run, every school pickup, every grocery run, every load of laundry, every phone call to the insurance company. Write it all down. And then I want you to show that list to your partner, not as an attack, not as look at what you're not doing, just as information. This is what I'm managing. I want you to see it. And then I want you to ask one question. Which of these things are you going to take off my plate starting this week? One question, not a lecture, not a list of grievances, just one question that requires an answer. And if they say, "I don't know, what do you want me to take?" which they might because they've been so disengaged, they genuinely don't know where to start, you have your answer ready. You say, "I want you to take the grocery shopping every 2 weeks. That's your job. Here's the budget, $180. Here's the list app on your phone. You plan the list, you go to the store, you stay on budget." Clear, specific, with a dollar amount attached. Because when they go to that store and they stand in that aisle looking at the prices, they will understand in 45 minutes what you've been dealing with for years. The grocery store is the great equalizer. Let them experience it. Here's what's really happening when your partner does start to take on more and then says, "This is so hard," or "I don't know how you do this." You're going to feel 2 things at the same time. You're going to feel relief that they finally see it, and you're going to feel a flash of anger because you've been doing this for years and nobody said it was hard for you. Let that flash of anger go. Don't use that moment to say, now you know how I've felt. Use it to say, yeah, it is hard. That's why we need to do it together. Turn it into connection, not competition. You're not trying to win. You're trying to build something that actually works. Now, let me talk to the woman who's reading this and thinking, you don't know my situation. My partner has reasons. There are health issues. There are circumstances. There's more going on. And I want to say this carefully. I hear you. There are absolutely situations where a partner's ability to contribute is genuinely limited by illness, by disability, by real circumstances beyond their control. I'm not talking to you like those situations don't exist, but here's what I'd ask you to check. Is there truly nothing your partner can contribute? Or have you just gotten so used to doing it all that you've stopped even assessing what's possible? Because in most of the cases I've seen, even a partner who has limitations can take something. Maybe they can't cook every night, but maybe they can make one phone call to handle one bill. Maybe they can't do physical labor, but maybe they can manage the grocery list. Maybe they can't contribute financially right now, but they can be present in the budget conversation. Something, a real partner finds a way to contribute something, even when they're limited. And if there truly is nothing, if the situation is truly that you are the only functioning adult in this household with no hope of that changing, then we're having a different conversation. Then the conversation is about what you can sustain long term and what kind of help you need from outside your household. Let me tell you something about the practical money side of this, because I don't want to skip over it entirely. There are real things you can do to stretch a dollar right now while you're working on the bigger issue. And I want to be clear, these are things you and your partner do together, not things you do alone while they watch. Meal planning is the single biggest lever on your grocery bill. When you know what you're making 5 days in advance, you stop buying things you don't use. You stop the random, we need something for dinner, runs to the store where you spend $60 on things you didn't plan for. A real meal plan done by both of you on Sunday night can cut $20 to $30 off your weekly grocery bill without giving up anything you care about. That's real money. Buying store brands on the staples, milk, butter, flour, canned goods, pasta is another one. You're not giving up quality in most cases. You're giving up the label. And on a $200 grocery bill, switching staples to store brand can save $15 to $20. Not a fortune, but it's not nothing either. Here's what else matters. The small daily purchases that feel invisible. Coffee on the way to work. If both adults in your house are buying coffee out every day, that's potentially $200 a month you're spending without thinking about it. That's $1,000 a year. Subscriptions you're not using. Most households, when they sit down and go through bank statements together, find 3 to 5 subscriptions they forgot about. Streaming services, app subscriptions, memberships. That can be another $80 to $150 a month. The key is doing this review together. Not you going through the bank statements alone at midnight. You and your partner on a Sunday afternoon going line by line. Because when they see those numbers, they start making different decisions too. And that's the whole point. You can't budget for 2 people if only one person knows the numbers. You want to know what's happening in households that are actually making it right now? They're not making it because they found some magic coupon strategy. They're making it because 2 people are looking at the same problem together and making decisions as a unit. They're having hard conversations about what they can afford. They're saying no to things together. They're making sacrifices together. And that shared sacrifice, even when it's hard, even when it means cutting back on things you used to enjoy, feels completely different from one person silently giving up everything while the other person stays comfortable. It feels like a team. And right now, you don't have a team. You have you. And you've been winning games you were never supposed to play alone. Here's what I want you to hold on to. You are not the problem. Let me say that again because I want to make sure you hear it. You are not the problem. You've done an extraordinary job under extraordinarily unfair conditions. The fact that you've kept this household running, kept your family fed, kept the lights on, kept showing up to work every morning, that's real. That matters. But doing extraordinary things under unfair conditions doesn't make the conditions okay. It doesn't mean you should keep doing it this way. It doesn't mean this is the only option. You deserve a partner, not a roommate, not someone who lives in the house you manage, a real partner who knows the numbers, who shares the load, who feels the weight of this thing alongside you. That's not asking too much. That's the minimum. And if somewhere along the way you got convinced that asking for the minimum was asking for too much, that's a lie you've been living with, and it's time to put it down. So here's where you are right now. You've been running 3 jobs on 1 paycheck. You've been covering the income, the household, and the budget alone. And when inflation showed up and made the $200 grocery cart a thing you couldn't hide from anymore, it didn't create your problem. It just held up a mirror. And the mirror is showing you something you've known for a while. What are you going to do about it? Not what are you going to think about doing, not what are you going to plan to say someday. What are you going to do this week? Because every week you wait is another week of carrying this alone. Every week you wait is another week of being exhausted, resentful, invisible, and ground down. You've already waited long enough. You know what needs to change, and you know who needs to change it. So here's where I'm going to leave you today. You've got 3 jobs and 1 paycheck, and only one of those jobs is optional. The work you do at home, the budget you manage alone, the meals you cook after a full day of work, none of that has to be yours alone, but it will keep being yours until you decide it isn't. Stop waiting for someone to notice how tired you are. They've noticed. They're just waiting to see if you'll keep going anyway. What are you going to do about it? That's the question I want you sitting with today. If this hit home, leave a comment below. Tell me which of those 3 jobs is wearing you out the most. And if you know a woman who needs to hear this, share it with her today. We put out new content every single day, so make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you tomorrow.